Remove carcinogens and get your gear compliant clean with Unimac laundry equipment. Find it at alliancelaundry.com/fire.
All right.
Here we are.
Let's go. Episode 2, 4 months.
4 months later.
Or whatever. I don't even know. Been too long. But a lot's happened since last time we did this. So but it's all good.
Yes.
And we're happy to be back. We're happy to do it. So
very, very happy to be back.
And to cut this short, obviously there's, like I said, a lot's happened. So we only have a short amount of time. So we won't rehash everything.
Right. So welcome back. Who says you got to start the year in January? It's February. We're going to start the year of 2025 off here because it's been a rough one to begin with.
Yeah. Not everyone plans on having, life changing or altering type events on New Year's Eve. Just end a year and start a year. So congratulations on that one.
The doctor walked in and said, "Happy New Year." And I'm like, yeah, perfect, man. Thank you.
You said quite a few things.
I'm sure. Hopefully they were okay.
Vacation. Thank goodness we weren't recorded.
Hey, just for our memories only.
Yeah. Had to be there. Be there.
Should have seen it in color.
Well, hey, yeah, it's good to be back and to do this again. And like I said, a lot's happened. Obviously, what we're referencing is Blake's accident that he had on New Year's Eve. And thankful to be alive, thankful to be here. That he's up, healing, on the road to recovery, and is going to come out stronger for it. But a lot's happened in the fire service in general, not just in Blake's life or Next Rung's organizational life or my life or anything else, but in the fire service. And so we were just wanted to give this episode to some of the things that have happened just in this short amount of time in this new year, and talk about some of that stuff and how it's affecting or could be affecting the fire service in our mental health states, and offer some encouragement and what we're doing to try and help our brothers and sisters across this great land.
For sure, man. I mean, it's just like you said, it's been heavy. I was just telling you a second ago, when you're involved in something on duty, like myself with an accident and apparatus, it completely changes your life. It changes your perspective. And, like you said, man, I'm blessed to be here, grateful for the Lord and just to be this side of heaven still, man, with my family and with my best friends like you and Next Rung and so many others, man. It's been a lot, but it really makes you look at everything else that's going on. And you'd mentioned the same thing, man. It's just been a heavy start to the year with so many different line of duty deaths and accidents, and it's just, man, it's been so much, and for myself, like I paid more attention to those things. Like not that I haven't paid attention to them in the past or seen them, but I don't know, man. It's a different perspective now being involved in a line of duty incident. It just makes you look at things a little bit different. So just to see what all these, brothers and sisters have been going through, and it not only does it impact the person going through it, but it impacts the other people around them, man, the people in their departments and who they work with and their friends and their families. And it's just a lot,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's been, like you said, every time you turn around, it seems like since the new year, you can't scroll through a social media feed or, something without seeing some tragic consequences that are taking place somewhere else, and, whether it be a line of duty death or a tragic accident, members injured. And so, it's heavy because a lot of it too, it hits close to home because you've had something similar, you've had that experience before, or, those that are affected, or you were present when it happened, and so, yeah, I just, want to talk about some of those things and just, again, offer kind of what we're doing with our organization to try and combat, the negative of those incidents. So
yeah, it's the cool part, I think is, you look at it and everyone's doing it for the love of the job, right? And what they signed up for and what they swore an oath to do. And, some of these tragedies and, these injuries you look at, man, like these are people who are, giving it all, man. Like they've literally given everything that they could to go in, and whether it's a search or they're responding somewhere, man, like the mentality and the idea is to go and to serve and to, be there for the citizens of their community, and sometimes there's negative consequences to that, I mean, and I feel like you think about those things, it's a possibility, but it's also one of those things like it's not going to happen to me, like at least that's how I
right.
feel sometimes. And
Yeah.
and maybe that's, I don't know if that's a cocky way of thinking, but you just maybe you're just hopeful, it's not going to happen to you, but there are things that do happen. And when it comes to your mental health, man, like your mental health is tested in these things, and I think that's the big part that maybe we can talk about is how our mental health is tested in these things and what that looks like. And it's not always the bad calls that we run, the trauma that we see. It's just the life that we're living, or how we respond to calls and the things that happen there. So we just kind of open it up with that.
For sure. I mean, you got a whole different perspective, right? Obviously, you were involved in an accident, so um, grateful to be alive, and you have all that, what goes through your mind in that incident. And then obviously coming out, it's still fresh. We're only a little over a month removed from that, so there's still a whole lot that has to take place. But for anybody out there that's been involved in an accident, or like been physically affected by an accident that's changed their life and how they live on a daily basis, took their career, either was career ending or altering, in that regard. Like for you, your mindset of what that future looks like, right? Like we kind of talked about it on our other episode of like going down the wormhole of like the negative thoughts, of like nothing will ever be the same. You can get trapped in your own mind of like, this is it. I'm never going to be able to, do X, Y, or Z, or this job, I won't have my job anymore. If I don't have my job, I don't have, it's, part of me, and I'm not going to be the same person ever again. And then the trickle down effects of how that affects your family and all that. So like for you, what, and where you're at, and you're early on in your recovery journey, but mentally you've had this great outlook on it, right? You talk about like, you're just can't wipe the smile off your face, right? And then, and so, how are you maintaining that in regards to like keeping that positive attitude, as opposed to like, man, I don't know if I'm ever gonna, work out again, or if I'm ever gonna, let alone get it back on a fire engine or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's a great question. And you in the moment, man, like as everything's kind of going down, your first thought is just survival, and just, getting to where you need to be. And that's kind of, where I was like after the accident happened, like as the apparatus stops and we're kind of where we are, like, what's going through your mind. And I'm sure it's going through so many other people's minds as they're in these incidences, like, all right, how do I get myself out of here? Like, how do I get myself safe and, away from this? My thing is like, number one, I don't want this thing to catch on fire. Number two, like, I know my femur's broken. So like, I don't want to bleed out. Like that's what's going through my mind, so like, how do I, I got myself out of the apparatus, and my partner came around and drugged me back up to the road. And, we were there until the ambulance got there and, did their thing. So grateful for those people as well. But, the whole idea is, we're, is survival in the moment. But once you get past that, once, I got past all the surgeries and things like that, like I'm just in a mindset of thankful to be alive. And for me, it looks like a good chance of 100% recovery, at least a 99% recovery. I don't know. My elbow won't ever stretch out all the way again, but, everything else,
gonna have good looking
yeah,
calves.
my calf is, a little jacked up. It got pretty sliced up. So it was like it got like a shark bite or something, yeah, so all that's going through your mind is like, okay, so what are my injuries? Are they going to heal up properly? Am I going to be able to return to the job, man? Because this is, man, it's a big part of our life. Literally everything that I'm involved in, like it points back to the fire service, man. Like even the stuff I do at church with our students and things like that, man. Like I love all those things and being a youth pastor, but even then, man, like we have so many first responders and firefighters that go to church with us. It's like, dude, it's such a cool thing. So all of that, man, to say like, yes, you look at, all right, what's my chances of returning to work? Is this career ending? Like even mentally, like you have to look at that too, right? Because you're scarred mentally on what that looks like. As a person who is driving and the accident happening, like that weighs on your mind. You go back and recalculate. You go back and just scavenge, or scavenger everything in your brain, like just to work back through that and process through it. Okay, could I have done anything different? All the things that just go through your mind. But to look at it and say, man, this is what happened. And just battling that, do I return? Am I going to be the same when I go back on? How's that going to affect me? Mentally, physically, all those things. It's a lot, because the injuries that you sustain on a job can be career ending for some, and for some it's not. But sometimes mentally it's career ending because it's just not the same anymore. They can't get it out of their mind, the things that they've experienced, man. And for me on that aspect of it, here's what I look at is no matter what happens, no matter what my injuries are, even if it alters, what that looks like for me on the fire service side, like my purpose doesn't change. Right. So that's where I go back. And I know that my purpose doesn't change in who I am and what I do. Yes, I love the fire service, man, and I want to be there and I want to be a part of it. It's literally, as my wife says, she's like, this is what you were meant to do. You know what I mean? She's like, I see it in you. I see you when I stop by, the firehouse or your smile or whatever, like it's a part of who I am. So, it would just look a little bit different. You know what I mean? Like, I guess if it were, career ending as far as being, on the field side and responding to calls, maybe trying to find something else within that, but man, my purpose is never going to change. And that's to serve the people around me and to love the people around me, even if I couldn't get back on a rig again, to go and be there for, man, just firefighters and first responders, that are local and that are across the country and, still doing what we do here at Next Rung, man. So I think that's the biggest part is, I think at the end of the day, if anything, man, I still have Next Rung to be able to, fulfill that purpose within me to go and to serve others and still be attached into the fire service, and make a difference there. So that's kind of where my hope is, and knowing that I'm doing exactly what the Lord wants me to do. And, just trying to keep that positive mindset, man. Again, I just feel blessed to still be here with my family, that I was able to walk away from that and to have my family and to have my friends, to have, still good health for me right now, even though the recovery isn't fun. It sucks, man. You break your femur in 3 spots, tore my calf muscle, broke my fibula, broke my elbow and lost my funny bone, and then fractured my sternum, man. Like it's a lot, like someone would look at it and be like, dang, man, that's a ton. But I don't know, man. Like I said from the beginning, and you said too, is man, I just can't wipe the smile off my face, and I know that's not everyone's outlook, and there's a lot of people that struggle with this stuff,
Sure.
that don't have the same positive mindset, and that's not to pat myself on the back, I'm grateful that that's where my mindset is, and hopefully, we have the opportunity to encourage others through that, because and this is so different, like you were on the other side of it, and we talked about that earlier, like
Mm-hmm.
from your perspective. But just on this side, man, like the empathy that I have for people is going to be so different, man, than it's ever been before.
For sure. Yeah, I think we talk about this with people that we, you know, come side by side with through their journeys, right? That it's important not to look like down the super far, future path, or like try to look at the top of the mountain, if you will, right? Like it's just take that next day, take that next step. What does that look like? And to try and prevent those thoughts of like, am I ever gonna do this, again? And or how do you fight those, right? Is like just finding the small victories in the day. Um, Even if for those that haven't had, I guess that extent of an injury, an accident. Like not everyone's obviously crashed a fire engine. Not everyone has been involved in a flashover. Not everyone has, had to bail out of a building and whatever fell, a couple stories or whatever, right? You name it. Like those are some pretty serious examples of like where injuries or deaths can take place. And not everyone has those. Like my, own personal injury history, right? Like I had surgery on my hip, which put me down for a while. And even just having that like puts you into a mindset of like, yeah, I don't know if I'm ever going to be the same. Because I wasn't, I've been an athlete my whole life. I've always been able to perform physically without any inhibition, right? And now that changes. And so it's like fighting off those feelings of like, I'm never going to be the same person. I'm never going to be the same person. And having to kind of remind yourself like being a firefighter, and I've had this internal like conversation, right? Being a firefighter is not essentially all of my being. It's not everything that defines me, right? It's what I do. It's my passion. It's what, how I want to go out and serve, my fellow persons. But it's not everything that defines me, right? And you find those things in those moments when that is stripped away from you. You can't be that firefighter. What else do you have? And so I think it just rings true to like, for people in terms of being, healthy, like good mental health state is making sure, we're not focusing so much of our lives in only one area and neglecting so many others, right? Because then when that one thing gets taken away from you, like you said, like I'm so thankful, or you're so thankful to be, with your family, right? Because I know for you and for me, and this is kind of what makes us, we're like, the same person, as like our families are so important, right? Like our spouses, our kids, and the amount of time we invest in those relationships and being husbands and being fathers and all those. And so it's important to, maintain, to keep doing that. And it happens a lot because we see it a lot. We at Next Rung, we hear these stories all too often where, families fall apart, marriages fall apart, whatever it might be. And a lot of it comes down to, right, like where are you pouring yourself into? And then when that gets separated from you, like how do you respond, right? And so for like to maintain a good mental health state, like it's good to make sure like be passionate and be involved and put forth all the effort that you have in these things, but also remember like there's a lot of us or a lot of things that make up who we are, and I think for you in your instance, this is obviously an extreme case, like lots of injuries, within your broken bones and all that. And those are going to heal, but when that happened, what else do you have, that you're able to find the joy and the light and, the positiveness of, everything else. Yes, the job has been put on hold right now, but you have good community, you have good people, that you've surrounded yourself with and have all shown up for you in some way, shape, or form, which is awesome, and then, but on the backside of that too, or the other side of that is that you have your family, you have your other priorities, things that you've set in place before this accident happened that you can find, like, hey, I'm still joyful because I still have so much more to live for other than being that firefighter,
Yeah, man, and I think that goes into how do you serve and how do you pour into others, you know what I mean? Like I think to me, like that was a good reflection, man. And there have been days where I've questioned, man, like I've talked to you even, like, is all this worth it? Like is Next Run worth it? Is the way that I, spend my time and I go to these conferences and, I speak and I instruct and all, like, is it truly worth it? Because it does take away from your family, right? It's a give and take, man. And my wife has been super gracious with that. My family's been super gracious with that. So Andy Starnes talks about, the love deposits and love withdrawals, like sometimes you're depositing and sometimes you're withdrawing. Like it's one or the other, you have to keep both of those going. And really keep the deposits going because you are going to withdraw those at points, and but being in this situation, man, like the outpour of just people, like it blew my mind, man. I just, it, I can't even explain it honestly,
Right.
like just the outpouring of that. So all that to say, like, I think that's the biggest thing is, if you serve other people in the way that you want to be served, and just pour into them with no expectation in return, but you just go out and you do what's right, man. Like, and you just love well, and you just go and invest into others. Like, it's gonna come back to you. Like when you go through moments like this, or you come to trials like this in your life, there are going to be people there that want to support you and that are there for you. And I think that's the biggest thing is sometimes people can kind of just get off on their own path and they just are there for themselves, and so we have to check ourselves, like, why am I actually here? Like, yes, I'm here to serve the citizens, I'm here to serve the community that I work in, but am I serving the other people beside me? Am I investing into other people beside me? Because that's truly where the change comes, and not just in your own four walls of your firehouse, but like get outside of that, man. Like you have to go to some of these trainings that are around the country, and just kind of expose yourself, and just open yourself up to that. Like it can be a little intimidating, you know what I mean? Because you don't know how other people are going to receive you, how they're going to treat you, what the training looks like, and things like that. But I'm telling you, man, like that is where some of my greatest friends have come from, like my greatest support, and obviously, man, I have you. Like, I mean, you're one of my greatest friends, man. Not my greatest friend, I would say, in the entire world, and the support that you've given me and my family, man. Like you at the drop of a hat, you flew out here, and you were here to hang out and help take care of my wife and kids, while you're just filling the gap, man, like you always do. And it's so special, man. Like that's where it all comes from, is just pouring in, investing into others. And I see people not doing that, man. Not only are they not doing it for themselves, and they're not doing it for their families, but they're not doing it for other people. And I think it's harmful to your career in the fire service if you don't do that, man. Like you got to have a good support system. And I'm not saying like that's the only place it comes from. I know we have support systems outside of that, but man, I tell you, for myself, like personally, like that is where it's all come from, man. It's just going and being a part of these trainings and getting out. And it's an adventure, man. Like you go to different states, you see different departments and how they operate, and you see how people do stuff. It's one of the coolest things, man. So I think that's where a lot of your help can come from. But your purpose at the end of the day shouldn't change no matter what's going on in your life. And I had a good mentor of mine ask me, he's like, Blake, if I were to strip everything away from you, your family, your career, all those things, he's like, what would your purpose be? And, like I'm working through all this stuff, and man, like that was the most, I don't know if it's a humbling question, but like just kind of like punch in the gut question, man. Like who would I be? Like if I were to lose everything, or if I were just to lose my career in the fire service, like who would I be? And then he asked me another question. He said, Blake, if I were to put you, strip you out of the fire service and then tell you had to go work at a call center with 100 employees, you're in charge, what would you do? And I'm like, oh, that sounds wonderful, because everyone loves getting, spam calls, so, but after that, being a smart aleck like I am, and having a, sarcasm is my love language. But, working through that, I said, man, I think what I would do is I would want to get to know the people that work there. I would want to know who they are. I would want to know about their families, and I would just work my way trying to figure out who these people are. And, that's my mindset in my heart, because I want to build other people up. I want to get to know them and, just pour into who they are. So I think that's where a lot of my positivity comes from, and what allows me to work through this. So I just want to encourage other people to do the same, man. Like just pour into other people, get outside of your four walls of your firehouse, no matter how great or how bad they are, and just expose yourself to some other great men and women who are just the greatest people, the greatest firemen that you'll ever meet, and just allow them to pour into you and you pour into them.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's you don't realize the impact that you have, in your kind of circle of influence, until obviously something happens, and it's like in a time of need and those people come out. We've talked about like serving without the expectation of being that coming in return. Obviously it's like we do what we do with Next Rung. Like we don't do it for paychecks. We don't do it because we're looking for any sort of, public acknowledgement of what we do, or that we're some saviors, or, whatever, right? Like we do it because we want to help people. We want to see people succeed. We want to see people do better, or be better, in their lives and their relationships and their careers and so forth, and don't expect anything in return. And so for those that are out there, regardless of what it is, like, not saying, hey, go out and be a social butterfly and be like, you need to, go meet and greet everybody. But just like, you don't realize the circle of influence that, with whoever you have, within reach, that,
Just one person, man,
yeah, that, in your time of need, something, God forbid, happens, right? That, that it's going to come back to you, right? Don't do anything with the self-serving sort of, I would expect this in return type mentality, So, well, I mean, for you, man, just to have that experience, like we've talked about, right, for our organization and so forth, and what that means for us, I think we have a really good, and we've done a good job. Not to like pat ourselves on the back, but I think we've done a good job of you know building a team of individuals from all kind of walks, lives, backgrounds, so forth, right? Where um, people come to us and they're having issues, or they, like they're dealing with something, that we have a pretty good group of people that we can say, hey, like, well, we have someone that's dealt with that. We have someone that's gone through that, and now we have you that's gone through that, So it really is just an experience in life, to be able to, reflect back on, and pass along, anything that's come out of it for you, and all of these experiences, regardless of tragic circumstances, or, like, we're not putting anyone higher than the other. Um, any life experience that you have is something that you can reflect upon, and pour out to someone else, in their time of need.
Yeah.
I tell people this all the time, like with, they reach out to us, or whatever, and they're like, hey, how do I become, part of Next Strong? How can I serve, or how can I do this, or whatever? And tell people, like, well, start where you are, right? Be that first person, and be that person that says, hey, I'm willing to listen to someone. And you never know who you might, come into contact with and change their life,
Yeah.
just by having a simple conversation. So
Yeah, that's a great point. Take it biblical for a minute. If that's not if that's not your thing, then
pastor and you.
turn it off. But no, I think about that because Jesus healed a guy who was demon possessed, and he's like, "Well, I want to be your disciple," and he's like, "No, stay here." And that guy literally changed the world around him. You know what I mean? Like it's the same thing. It's like you don't always have to do it on a bigger level, and um, you have the ability to make an impact where you are. We all have a circle of influence, whether we want to or not, and it's so cool that we have that opportunity and have that, possibility to impact people around us. So, again, like Charlie said, you don't have to go and, be a social butterfly and put yourself out there. But if you can at least make an impact in one person's life during your time here, then man, I count that as great, like that's huge. So, and typically once you make an impact in one person's life, it tends to, continue from there. So, anyway, I just think that's, man, so important, to just be a circle of influence, to be an influence in the circle that you have and what you've been given. And we've all been given one. So,
Sure.
take advantage of that.
Yeah. And kind of bring it back, right, with what we're opened up with, just there's a lot that's gone on
Yes.
within the fire service, at the beginning of this year, right? There's been a lot of line of duty deaths, whether, on incidents, or, in the firehouse, or, off duty, whatever. We've lost a number of firefighters already this year. There's been, catastrophic events. I'm in Southern California, right? So obviously everyone knows what we've been dealing with in January, which is these catastrophic wildfires. We had firefighters that lost their homes, that their everything's burned down to the ground, right? Like they were out working on shift, or even maybe not on shift, but and had to evacuate or lost their homes but still fought to save others. And so regardless of circumstances, there's a lot that's gone on, and so there's a lot of people across the country right now within the fire service and the first responder community that, might be struggling with loss, tragedy, struggles, just feeling like things have, been getting beat down a little bit. And our biggest message to all of those and all of you that might be in one of those situations, right, is that you never alone. And we talk about standing in the gap or taking up space for somebody. And that's what we're here for. That's what our organization does. You have someone to take up space for you, to stand in that gap. And it doesn't have to be anything that's, extravagant, not a whole lot of conversation that has to take place. Sometimes you just need someone to just stand by your side, and just know that you're not standing by yourself, right? That's just to have somebody standing there. And not, it doesn't even have to be physical, right? And that's like, obviously we are our peer team and everything else. We help first responders across the country, but we can't physically be everywhere across the country. But because of the technology and everything, we're right there, simple text message, phone call, whatever. You always got someone there to stand with you and help walk with you through any of these types of incidents that have, taken place. So I just want to remind people of that you're not alone, and that, much like, Blake's circumstances or my circumstances or anybody else that's out there and you're wondering, like, how did these guys get through? How do they, how fortunate are they to have someone, like by their side or whatever. I just want to let everybody know you have someone by your side, and you can always reach out, yeah, that's my little soapbox about what,
No, I love it, man.
Our organization, right?
Preaching what we do, man. Like that's why we started Next Drunk, man, because we saw the need and want to be here, and that's our heart, man, through and through, for both of us and all of our organization, man. We have so many wonderful people. It blows my mind, man, that we have people that volunteer with us, and man, they just answer these text messages and phone calls and just are there to fill the gap, and be that person, like Charlie said. I mean, that's the most important thing for us, is to be there, whether it's, not physically, but virtually, in a sense of, but we can still have those conversations and still be there and make sure that you're taken care of. But shoot, if you're close to us, and maybe it is physically, you know what I mean? Like there have been moments where we've been there physically for people, and if we can do that too, we would love to make that happen and, just build those relationships. But my biggest thing in all of this is, your mental health isn't just the calls that you run. And I know a lot of times that everything just gets pointed to that because it's so easy for us to point mental health to, the trauma and, PTSD and the bad calls that we run. But man, I feel like it's such a small part, not to downgrade anything or to make it look smaller than what it is. Like, yes, those things impact us, like trauma impacts your brain, no matter, how well you process it, it still becomes a part of you and your story. But there are so many other things, man, that we are all that we're all going through. So anyway, just I want everyone to know that your mental health, it doesn't matter what it is, personal, on the job, off the job. We're here for it. We want to catch you upriver. We don't want to catch you at the waterfall. So make sure that you're reaching out to someone. It doesn't have to be us, man. We know that we're not the answer for everybody, but if we can be, we want to be here for you.
For sure. Absolutely. I think, that's a good thing to just kind of wrap up on, is just that, there's so much that makes us as people, right? I mean, the job is one thing, our families, wherever we spend our time, contributions, whatever. Folks that don't have families, right? You're young and haven't established a family yet or whatever, right? Like there's things within your life that you pour into, or that pour into you. And so there's a lot of things in our lives that make up who we are. And all those things can take a toll, can, like you say, be emotionally withdrawing or emotionally depositing, And so just addressing all those things, being aware that it doesn't always have to be the job that gets you.
Yeah. Love it, man. Great way to end.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you guys for listening. Tell people about us. Come back. We'll see you again next month. We love you guys and grateful for you. And we'll see you guys later.
Peace.
Remove carcinogens and get your gear compliant clean with Unimac laundry equipment. Find it at alliancelaundry.com/fire.